There are so many privileges to doing this MC job for this, and one of them is you get such a long time to sit and read these books over and over again. And maybe sometimes what I do is I try and play tricks on myself and try and read them in different places. So Ruby comes from Sheffield, so I was in Sheffield the other day, sat in a cafe reading her poems just to see if the Sheffield made its way into the poems. And I know that Katharine Towers lives in the Peak District, so when I was going to Manchester from Sheffield on the train, I read her poems. And there's a big tunnel, the biggest tunnel in Britain is Totley Tunnel, between Sheffield and a place called Grindleford. And I was in this tunnel, this long tunnel, and I was reading this book, The Remedies, and this man sat opposite me, was staring intently at me, and he's looking at me as I'm reading it. And after a bit he went, "Poorly, are you?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, why are you reading Remedies?" I said, "Well, to make myself feel better, actually, to make myself actually feel that language can be a better thing." And he changed seats. So there are remedies in here, a wonderful sequence of flower remedies, but it's also about language, this book. And it's about a language not can make you better in a kind of shallow way, but I can make you think harder about the world. There's a wonderful line in here about what poetry can be. "See how frost enunciates the day, spelling out each grass by name, each leaf and twig, the petals of this stem of lady's smock. Frost enunciating the day," a bit like what poetry can do, can enunciate, can name things. And then in the poem Childhood, I think these three lines are a fantastic metaphor for what poetry can be. "Let's play that game again, stepping out along the branches, pretending to tip, as if we still believed we couldn't fall." And isn't that what poetry does? You step out onto the line, you believe you couldn't fall. I should have said that to the fella on the train. Then he wouldn't have changed seats, I don't think. So, please welcome the fantastic Katharine Towers.
The Roses. Because my father will not stand again beneath these swags of Himalayan musk, nor stare for hours to see which stems are safe and which need tying back, I have it in my mind to let the roses pull our house down slowly for 100 years. Then I'll come back to find its wreck of thorns and brick, my father lying on the bed in which he died and blinking in the petal-scented light. As Ruby said, it's a great privilege and very exciting to be here. The epigraph of this next poem is an observation made by the minimalist Estonian composer Arvo Pärt. It is enough if a single note is played perfectly. And having recently sung some of his music, I tend to agree. So beautiful, it must be true. One day, a note flew up and landed in your heart. It settled in between the lisping chambers, singing to itself and wanting only to be left alone, no eavesdropping. It tiptoed up and down your arteries, leaving echoes in corners and a hum. Fearing it was gone, you wept until you felt a familiar pain like a bruise to the groin. When it flew away, you wept again, bathing your perfect, invisible wound. The 19th century French poet Gérard de Nerval famously walked the streets of Paris with his pet lobster at his side on a silk blue lead. Nerval and the lobster. His beautiful clatter turns heads. I explain. He does not bark. He knows the secrets of the sea. He is docile at my heel and slender as a mayfly. He moves like a long blue bone. I ask, "What are you thinking, elegant prince? Whisper what you remember. What are you thinking, my brother?" The Palais Royal is filling with ocean. Salt frosts the golden halls. Is this your work, O beautiful monster? I wrote this next poem after reading about the excavations at Herculaneum in a rather marvellous book by Stephen Greenblatt called The Swerve, How the World Became Modern. At one particular villa, the archaeologists uncovered a huge papyrus library, which suggested that it might have been a meeting place for would-be Roman intellectuals, specifically the followers of Lucretius. So in the poem, I imagine these gentlemen, for they were gentlemen of leisure, walking in the gardens and perhaps indulging in a little light philosophizing. At the villa of the Papyri Herculaneum. Do you wonder what causes lightning, earthquakes, and eclipses? What if there were natural explanations for the things that terrify you? Do you fear that the mighty gods are angry? Have you ever felt safe in a city without walls? Is it virtuous to devote one's life to the pursuit of truth? Is debate with an intellectual equal more or less useful than solitary contemplation? Do you long for the flimsy pleasures of wealth and renown, honestly? What's wrong with a humble existence, surviving on bread, water, and pots of cheese? Do you believe in the immortal soul? Have you tried imagining the soul as part of the body, like the mouth? Have you ever said out loud things you knew not to be true? Are you frankly bored to death at home? Do you fear that the mighty gods are angry? Do you feel sorrow when you hear these words, atom, void? I'm going to end this reading with 4 little flower remedies. The central section of the book contains a sequence of 14 poems which are based on the flower remedies created by the herbalist Edward Bach in the 1930s, he of the famous rescue remedy. So in each very short poem, the plant or flower is imagined to be afflicted with whatever it is a remedy for. I've also tried to match the symptoms to the particular characteristics or habits of the plant. Agrimony, a remedy for mental torture that is kept hidden. All summer I cough up umpteen tiny yellow blooms. I can't help looking cheerful, but in my heart of hearts I'm troubled. If I could choose, I'd bear a single dark blue flower, heavy as a stone and bitter-scented. Aspen is a remedy for fear of the unknown. Naturally, we're phobic, each afraid of everything. When the wind gets up, we enact a delicate hysteria. Our leaf hearts startle and we fibrillate beautifully. Willow is a remedy for self-pity. Don't think that I weep. I'm practicing drowning. I'll do it one leaf at a time, a meticulous immersion. The river rises and falls and makes no difference. Water is always upon me, like a bad thought. For all the good I have not done, forgive me, forgive me. wild balsam is a remedy for impatience. I gave short shrift to motherhood and flung my children from me. Who'd have those tiny shoots under their feet all day? I want to think and work. I want to make of my hamstrung life a brilliant fever. Thank you.